Hello everybody and welcome to the channel here of MeteoMark Weather. It's great to have you here. Unfortunately, I wish we could say we're done with hurricanes and storms here as Milton moves away, but something may be brewing here for the Caribbean into the Gulf of Mexico as we head into next week. I'm going to have all your weather here. Let's get into it. And looking at our European model here, you can see what's going to be happening over the next several days. Just like we saw on the GFS, we start to see that area start to fill in right around the 12th here. So here's the intertropical convergence zone, Cape Verde Island season still cranking up here. What's left of Milton out in the middle of the Atlantic at this point. But as we go out here in time, you can see, look at the Western Caribbean through the 13th here. So we're getting into next week. We're already getting those signs that we could be seeing the very vigorous tropical wave tapping into not only some Caribbean moisture here, but some Pacific moisture as well as we get into the 14th. The 15th, look at Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, Central America, just really inundated here with lots of showers and thunderstorms through the 16th. And now on the 17th, you can see the European really filling this area in. We have something that's going to be potentially brewing here. And I hate to, show you this far out, but look at even out here into the Atlantic, the intertropical convergence zone, we have another big wave. It's like hurricane season has said, no, it's not October. It's still summer, and that's what seems to be cranking here. Look at this. As we get through the 17th into the 18th, there's definitely something cranking here. This version of the European run, so to speak here, really has ramped up. Look at this. Wow, this is incredible. So, unfortunately, we're going to be watching for some more potential development here, especially in the Northwest Caribbean. And unfortunately, look at this. This is by the 19th. So, yeah, this is 9 days out. A lot can change between now and then, but we could be looking at some sort of storm trying to develop here into the Eastern Gulf. And it's not looking good here. And then we have a couple more that could be trying to form behind it here. So, this is not good news. All right, so as we get into the GFS here, let's see how that compares. Now, the GFS really starts blowing this thing up really rapidly. So yeah, we do have an area out here by the Cape Verde Islands, but it's low and it will probably likely recurve. So let's take a focus here on our Caribbean low pressure that's going to start winding up. Here it is by the 15th. GFS is hinting we may actually start to get the prospect of a named storm come the middle to latter part of next week pretty quickly here. And look at this. It's actually stealing energy here from the Eastern Pacific as well, feeding moisture in, as well as from the Atlantic and the Caribbean here. So this thing gets cranking. We got this frontal boundary just to the north. Now let's see how the GFS handles this in the latest 18Z run here. And you can see this really gets cranking here across the Western Caribbean. And GFS showing this as a potential major hurricane with an eye forming by the 18th here. Nicaragua and Honduras, Jamaica to the northeast here, as well as the Cayman Islands. Here's Honduras, here's Nicaragua, and Costa Rica. So this is a development we'll have to keep a close watch on. It's a lot different than the European model, which develops it more over the Gulf. But here we go, the 19th. It's heading towards Belize here and the northern coast of Honduras. This could be devastating if this were to occur, so we'll keep an eye on this. And then heading westward into the Bay of Campeche. One thing to note, the reason why the GFS is doing this on this run is this very big high-pressure system. You see the bend in the isobars here, and then we have a little bit of a trough hanging out here to the north. So that helps steer this more towards the west into Central America and eventually the Bay of Campeche here. So we'll have to keep an eye on this. Going this far out, it's anybody's game, and then it gets right where Milton was really starting to develop. So this is a bit concerning. So we have plenty of time to watch this. And look at this. We've got some synoptic storms. Maybe potential for some subtropical storms here off the East Coast as well. So we'll have to keep an eye on this. The rest of the tropics, yeah, it looks pretty benign here, at least on the GFS model as we go out here in time. That storm might flare up near the Cape Verde Islands here as we go through the weekend into next week. But nothing else too interesting on the GFS until you get to about, let's get the 23rd here. This is going pretty far out, though. Look at all this tropical moisture. Sometimes you have to watch these fronts, they get down into parts of the Northeast Caribbean islands. Sometimes they can flare up something as well. But look at this. To round it out here, the Western Caribbean and Southern Gulf and Central America much wetter through the next week or two. And before we continue, don't forget, if you made it this far in the video and you like it, smash that like button, everyone. It really does help. Question or comment down below. I love to read your questions or comments. And don't forget, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe bell notification button so you're alerted with all my future weather video updates. Let's continue. And dry air analysis here, thanks to Tropical Tidbits on our European run. Look what gets cranking here by Sunday. So I'm going to show you on the GFS, it looks pretty much the same, and it's really looking the same here. Initial start here with our pieces of energy that are coming together. So as we head through Sunday into Monday, Tuesday of next week, you still see it looks like the Northern and Central Gulf is protected up here with all this dry air. But watch what happens here as we get into the 17th, 18th, 19th, and of the 20th. Look what it kind of gets sucked up here into this trough that's developing to the west. So this is a trend we're going to have to keep an eye on. The Euro is now more northerly, where I'm going to show you what the GFS is doing here. So taking a look at our GFS model here for our upper layer dry air analysis, you can see there's one feature that gets going Sunday across South Florida and the Bahamas. That's going to be the start of all this, as well as this area in the southwestern Caribbean. There's going to be a couple pieces of energy that come together. Look, we even have some energy over here into the Eastern Pacific. So these could come together next week. If we take a look here, heading into Tuesday, October 15th, this really gets cranking. It taps into some Pacific moisture, Caribbean moisture, and look at this. GFS really cranking this up by about Friday, October 18th into a potential hurricane. GFS is taking this further west now, which is kind of interesting on this model run. So that's a trend we'll have to keep an eye on, but look at this big plume of moisture with it. If we take a look at our steering currents here, upper level vorticity, you can see as we head through next week, there's that little piece of energy. We have a couple areas of energy over the Caribbean here. And then there is that, essentially our frontal boundary up here. So as we continue in time, look how we have a few pieces of energy here into the Eastern Pacific here and one into the southwestern Caribbean. This really starts to flare up a little bit as we go out here in time towards Friday and Saturday, and that tries to conglomerate into something here across the central and eastern Gulf. And by this time, you can see there's a trough developing up here, which helps bring this system up like this on the European model. And if we look at the GFS here, there it is spinning up across Central America, much further to the west at this point, making a landfall in Belize here. So that's and getting over here into the Bay of Campeche again. So that's a development we'll have to keep a really close watch on as well. And if we look at our water temperatures here, this has got tremendous water to really just crank. Even the Gulf is still running high. The Western MDR. Wanted to show you the Cansips model here. Look at October, just showing extreme amount of moisture here. Eastern Gulf all the way to the Cape Verdes here, the Caribbean in particular. If we head into November, I think we should still be looking at some named storms here across the Caribbean into the Western MDR. The Cape Verde season starts to shut down, and do I dare say that we could actually be looking at potential storm activity down here come early December. So our Caribbean rainfall totals here as we continue into next week. That's when the rain's really going to start. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday timeframe into Thursday, all the way through the 20th. Sunday the 20th. This is the area that we're going to be watching. There's going to be tremendous rainfall developing. 100 to 150 millimeters of rainfall is not out of the question here. Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, you may come very close to 100, if not just over it. So we're looking at a solid 3.5 to as much as 8 inches in some areas. As we look at the western part of the Atlantic here into the eastern Caribbean, the Bahamas, yeah, we see that wave kind of moving through the Lesser Antilles here as we head into early part of next week, and then not too much in the way of rain, but we will pick up, anywhere from about 40 to as much as 60 millimeters here, about right around an inch of rain on average here. If we take a look at power outages here across Florida with Milton, this is just terrible, heartbreaking. I know some people down in Florida here that are probably going to be without power for weeks, and I can't even imagine. Look at this, the Northport area, Tampa area, St. Petersburg, all the way inland here. We had a major tornado outbreak inland too. Let's move away some of these showers here. So look at this. As we continue to go out towards Daytona Beach, it's terrible. There is literally, I think the count was up to something like 3 million people plus without power, and that's just terrible. So yeah, unfortunately, this was a very large, high-impact storm, and these really red areas and these maroonish colors are the areas hardest hit the power grid, really, all the way down to Cape Coral here. Just tremendous damage, even inland here. Look at this. Some of these counties, Orlando fared a tiny bit better, but your surrounding areas are just decimated. But yeah, the Tampa power grid on southward here is just miserable. And if you take a look at the damage reports here, especially these tornadic reports here, tornadoes were very prevalent on the east side of the system. We had a major tornado outbreak occur right here into much of central part of Florida and South Florida, and this was really bad. Of course, we had lots of reports of flooding. There was tremendous damage here, and a lot of these things didn't get reported because people's communications were knocked out, so you get the idea. A lot of people were able to, report some of these wind gusts, but obviously where the areas were hardest hit up here, where it, really came ashore, there's not a lot of reports, unfortunately. Because things are just so far knocked out. But yeah, look at the tornadic outbreak here on the east coast of Florida yesterday as well. This was just terrible. And even flooding all the way up into the northern part of the state. Hopefully we can get you back in an order here in Florida, but we're going to be keeping an eye on the Gulf, and let's hope this next potential system does not head your way. We'll be watching it here for you, Florida, and get you through this. But it's just getting to be a broken record here and I know a lot of you don't want to hear about any more tropical systems. All right, so as Milton heads away from Florida, Georgia, and the Carolina coastline here, takes a lot of moisture with it. There is kind of an inverted trough that's going to kick off some showers and thunder showers here, continuing across South Florida as we continue through the 11th into the 12th. So that'll be a thing through the Bahamas as well. There's kind of a leftover trough kind of stuck around here, unfortunately. So as we go through the rest of the east here, you got a cold start building in here across the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, some frost advisories up in effect. But look at this, as we continue to go through the 12th into the 13th, the weekend, it looks really nice. At least we can get through the 12th here at 2 p.m. But I warn you, because look what's coming here. This is our next system that's going to be diving south and eastward. So your Sunday could be pretty wet for portions of the Ohio Valley, Great Lakes, and the Northeast. And here we go. We got a photo. Thank you, John. You're the first person to send a photo in a while. Sorry I couldn't show it the last couple of days. We had Milton coverage, but I definitely wanted to do your photo justice here. Beautiful day at the street fair city of Chettlebosch train station. Look at that. The weather this time of year can be really beautiful in this part of the country, and that's no exception here. Look at those beautiful blue skies here. This is just really nice in this part of New York this time of year, and you still see a lot of green leaves there in the background, but those will be slowly changing over the next couple weeks. Nice captures there, John. And actually, I stand corrected. Joe Drehos has just sent in some very beautiful Northern Lights photos. Yeah, it's actually visible from many areas. I tried in my area, not really for me, but most of you across parts of, the Eastern Great Lakes, Northeast areas might get a good glimpse of this. And look at this. This is just beautiful. These are beautiful captures. It was right around 8 o'clock in the evening on Thursday evening. So, depending on where you are, I don't know. I don't know how localized it can be. I thought it was supposed to be a little bit more widespread. That's why I was hoping I would see it, but so far I haven't seen it. But look at that. Get out there if you're in the New York State area, Pennsylvania, any of these areas where it could be good viewing. I checked my area. It's clear, but I'm not really seeing much. But nice captures here. Joe Drehos from the Johnson City, New York area. Picking up where our future radar left off here as we head throughout the rest of the 12th into the 13th here. Yeah, you're going to eke out, a good part of the weekend here, except for, Sunday here. So as we get around the 13th, Yeah, we got this disturbance moving through the northeast here and parts of the Ohio Valley. We have a little tropical moisture hanging out. I know you don't want to hear that here across South Florida. It could be bubbling up as well. And into the northeast as we get into the 14th here next Monday. Yeah, this storm wrapping up. It's also going to be blasting more colder air behind it as well. So, yeah, I am working on my winter weather 2024-25 outlook. So watch out for that shortly. I'm trying to put the finishing touches on it. And as we continue in time, yeah, it seems like things are getting cooler earlier here, so to speak, than previous years. Still some unsettled weather as we head into the 15th. And then we just crank a lot of high pressure. We do have some weak disturbances that will flow down as we head through the 17th here into parts of the Ohio Valley, eastern Great Lakes. But most of the time, we'll be dominated by colder, high-pressure systems. Here's the 20th, though. We'll be watching a storm system moving through the Midwest into the deep south, but all eyes are going to be on the Gulf. So for rainfall amounts here, yeah, thankfully we can dry out a bit here, except South Florida. So we head later on in the weekend into early next week. We see another 2 to maybe 4 inches of rain there with a little bit of some tropical moisture. Up here into parts of the Northeast, Ohio Valley, this is Sunday, mainly Sunday into early Monday. We're going to see rainfall on the order of about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch, so watch out for that. And let me show you the last couple frames here. That coming right into the eastern Gulf from the 16th to the 20th. That is something we're going to keep a very close watch on. Look at that moisture coming up through. We could have another storm or potential hurricane. And for our Canadian weather outlook here, what's going on, Canada, as we head throughout the rest of your week here into the weekend? So as we head into Friday, there'll be some inclement weather across southern Ontario and Quebec. We have a weaker storm pushing down through here, more of an open wave, so to speak. But here as we head through the 13th into the 14th, we have more chances of some showery weather here, southern Ontario and Quebec, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, and out here towards British Columbia as well. High pressure builds into the prairies of the central provinces here, but look at the big story is going to be these low pressure systems that wind up here across southern Quebec as we head into the early to middle part of next week, right up into the Canadian Maritimes. We'll also be watching a big storm blasting into British Columbia here. You're no stranger to these type of storms. Very much so like the Pacific Northwest to the United States, and we have it's like both coasts here are being blasted by very strong storms here. Look at that, and that blasts up towards Greenland here, and then we get a little bit of a drying trend into southeast Canada here. As we head through the 19th into the 20th, you can see, for the most part, drying out in these areas. A front stuck right in between here, and look at British Columbia. That unsettled weather continues. And our Canadian rainfall amounts here, it's mainly going to be confined to both coasts here, the eastern part of Canada into the western part of Canada. The west coast of Canada getting pounded with 150 to 200 millimeters here. Mountain Snow Valley rain, that translates to a good solid anywhere from about 5.5 to as much as 10 inches. Here into southeast Canada, that's where we're going to see 60 to about 90 millimeters on average here. That'll niche up about 1.5 inches, close to 2.5 inches of rain. And the western Pacific here, let's see if we got anything going on. It doesn't look like a whole lot other than a lot of rainfall here across the Philippines. We'll also be getting some wet conditions here developing as we head through next week. So watch what happens here. Nothing really on the radar in the intertropical convergence zone. But as we go out in time, look at this. Things really start to bubble up here, and we do start to get some big tropical waves out here east of the Philippines. And look at Southeast Asia here. This is going to be heading northeast towards South Korea here and Japan. In fact, South Korea, Seoul here looks pretty clear for the time being until next week, where we start to get some heavy rain developing with that synoptic low. But there it is, high pressure dominating much of Japan until later next week. We start to get some heavy rain. But we'll be watching the tropics here. Things are going to start looking potentially pretty interesting as we go through the middle to latter part of October here. And heading out to our rainfall totals here in the Western Pacific, you can see the Philippines are just going to continue to fill in here. Japan as well, South Korea, China even getting on a lot of tropical moisture here. We have 2 bands of tropical moisture, one across Vietnam, Thailand, and down in through the Philippines here, and then another from China, South Korea, over to Japan. Anywhere from about 100 to 150 millimeters, getting an average of about 4 to as much as 7 inches of rain. And before we continue with more weather, check out these awesome, amazing maps that you won't find anywhere else.
I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning digital professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code.
So for our temperatures here, this is kind of crazy because look at this. We have summer right in the middle here, and we have fall right around the edges here. So 60s here into parts of the Ohio Valley Northeast. A lot of you will wake up to a frost Friday morning, but look at the 90s out here into the Central Plains. As we head into Saturday here, yeah, that reinforcing shot of some colder air up here into the lakes in the Northeast, 50s and 60s, 90s, and near 100 across the Southern Plains here. And look at this here and through the Carolinas, nice and temperate into the mid-70s into Sunday. That cooler air, it's like 2 battlegrounds here, summer versus winter. I shouldn't say winter, fall. It almost looks more like late fall up here in the parts of the upper Midwest to Northeast. And look at this. The bottom is going to be dropping out here. 50s are going to be widespread by Monday, October 14th here. But look at the 90s holding on. 80s and 90s across the Gulf Coast. It's like the tale of two. Wow, look at that. 60s here in the parts of Alabama, Mississippi, northern Georgia. But all eyes are going to be on the Gulf next week. Look at this. Even some 70s down along the Gulf Coast by next Wednesday. And look at this into the Ohio Valley and Northeast. That is some widespread 50s there. Extended forecast from our hometown viewers, Binghamton to Scranton, Upper Susquehanna, River Valley, New York, and Pennsylvania. It's a frosty start Friday morning. Low to mid-30s in those normally colder valleys. We will rebound to the mid-60s both Friday afternoon and Saturday afternoon, so get out there and enjoy it. Sunday we'll have showers and thunderstorms likely with that cold front, that disturbance moving through. That will cool things way down for Monday as well as Tuesday. Highs only near 50. As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MeteoMark, also Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget it's MeteoMark.com, and don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, Super Thanks. You can smash that Super Thanks button or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks, everyone. Share that video. Subscribe if you haven't. Smash that like button.